Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be working on Hunter's Chorus by Von Weber. It's a nice piece, has some interesting rhythmic stuff going on, has a little bit of second position, has a repeat in an interesting place. Um, yeah, overall it's a nice little piece. I enjoy this one. So before we get started, let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the time signature. We are in 2/4. It's geared towards a faster playing, um, and especially with the allegro marking there, it's supposed to be quicker. Um, let's go ahead and take a look at the first four measures, including the pickup. So, counting with these gets to be real interesting because if you count, 1, 2, 1, 2, you've got this skip in there. And so with this pickup, which is what that first eighth note there is, with a pickup, it's you're keeping the internal time, so the 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and but to get into the piece, you just count 1 and 2 da da in this case. Yeah, let's go ahead and just play that first, the pickup and the first measure, just so we can kind of get the counting down on that one. So I will go ahead and count off 1 and 2. On the and of 2, that's when we start. Pardon me. So it will sound like this: 1 and 2 and. So go ahead and join me for that. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So normally you would just count off 1 2 da 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 da, da. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've got that worked on a little bit, looking at this first line, measures 1 through 4, we have sixteenths, which are not necessarily new, but they're kind of scary because that's a lot of that's a lot of stuff on the page. We've got slurs, we've got accented notes, we've got ties. It's a whole lot of fun stuff. So, first two measures, which we have practiced, we'll go ahead and just play those now. 1 and 2 and. Okay, and then the next two measures, we don't have anything terribly new or that kind of stuff. One of the things that I always get backwards on is, especially on the repeated notes, I tend to hook them. So in measure 2, for example, I have a real bad tendency of basically playing two up bows on the same note, and tying them together, which in this case we're working on making sure that we have the accuracy down, and then we're not just randomly adding ties or slurs or that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and play measures 2 and 3, and then we'll work on measure 4, and then we'll put that entire line back together. So 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and. Always make sure, especially in repeated situations, but also like in measure 4 when you've got changing notes, when they are accented, you want to bring those out. In this case, it needs to be kind of a short clipped deal. So measures 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and. And then in measure 4, we have sixteenths running into eighths. Both of them are going to be, both of the eights are going to be accented, but they're also tied or slurred, I guess. Ties, ties for when it's the same note repeated. Slurs for when you change pitch. I'm trying to keep my terminology straight. So let's just look at measure 4 by itself. And then let's go ahead and just slow that down just a little bit. 1 and 2 and. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. Measure 4, 1 and 2 and. So let's go ahead and slow the entire thing down, and then we'll do the pickup through measure 4. And we'll do that a couple times, and then we'll move on. So, Yep, pick up and to measure 4. 1 and 2. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. There's a whole lot of stuff that can be communicated and wrapped up in these markings on the page. You've got ties, you've got slurs, you've got accents, you've got dynamics, you've got bowings, you've got fingerings. There is an absolute ton of information that is coming at you on these pages. And it's very easy to just get used to reading the notes, but actually slowing down and breaking down each individual part and aspect of it is really important, especially when you start getting into higher levels of playing, when you're not just like sight reading everything and having a grand old time, which is a lot of fun. Do not get me wrong. But trying to move forward, you want to be a lot more precise in what you do, and you want to be a lot more observant, and you want to try to incorporate everything, all of the information that you are given on the page into what you're doing. So, enough of my lecturing. Let's go ahead and play measure the pickup through measure 4. So 1 and 2. Okay, and then let's look at measures 5 through 8. We have the same quarter note, 16th note rhythm in the first measure. Measure 2 matches, or measure 6 matches measure 2, quarter and eighth. So repeating that should be kind of the same. We do have a shift into second position in measure 7 and measure 8. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what this entire 4-bar section sounds like. And then we can break it down a little bit farther. So keeping that same slower tempo, starting at 5, we're playing through till 8. Go ahead and give it a try this time around. See if you can get the shifting and the fingerings before we break it down and take a little bit more time to focus on that specifically. See if you can sight read this particular line along with me, and we'll see how we do. So 1 and 2 and. Sorry. Leaving off the pickup into the next section. My apologies. So let's go ahead and play measures 5 and 7 together, just so that we can kind of get that together. It shouldn't be terribly far off. It's basically the exact same thing as measures 1 and 2. So measures 5 and 6. Go ahead and play with me. 1 and 2 and. Make sure you bring out those accented notes. We'll do that one more time. 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and. See, there I hooked it together. It needs to be. And I played. So the notes were right, the bowing was wrong. And the problem with a lot of this is if you get backwards in the bowing, it will knock you off on what you're supposed to do after that, and things don't flow, and it gets wonky real fast. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. We'll do measures 5 and 6, and then we'll do measure 7 and its carryover, and then we'll string the entire thing together and then move on. So measures 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and. Okay. And then let's move on to measure 7. Do, 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 do. Yep. So we are going from first position into second position, which means your second finger is going to be going where your fourth normally does. And that sounds like this. And then the pickup note into the next section. I have a tendency of leaving that off. I apologize. So let's go ahead and do measure 7 carrying over into measure 8. So starting in first position, let's go ahead and play it. 1 and 2 and. Now, keep in mind, the next note, that open A, is going to be an up O as well. So this will be kind of an unwritten slur, but you're not going to want to play constantly through until that next pickup. You're going to want a definite break there. So let's go ahead and play measures 5 through 8, leaving off the pickup into measure 9. Oh, geez. So let's go ahead and keep that slower pace. Measures 5 through 8, 1 and 2 and. Okay. Measures 9 through 16 really aren't anything terribly special. Let's go ahead and play through those with me. We'll go ahead and break that down if we need to as we go through. So let's do the pickup to 9, which would be the last note in measure 8. So it'll be that 1 and 2 and. We'll do the pickup in measure 8 into measure 9, and then we'll play through to measure 16. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but breaking it down by chunks makes a lot of sense, but also helps kind of give you, when you're used to looking by measure numbers and figuring out where things are and how things line up, it really does kind of start getting you into like, oh, hey, measure 17, let's go. You can, when you start hearing it, when you start thinking about it and framing it in that perspective, it really does help you kind of pick up when you get into small ensemble areas or that kind of deal, or if you get into student orchestras, full orchestras, those kind of things. Everything is run by measure numbers. And it does kind of frame how you look at the music and how you break it down, because this one kind of runs in 4 measured bars with a pickup in the last pickup in the last bar into the next section. So in this case, we have the pickup at the very beginning of the song, which isn't attached to anything, and then there's a 4-bar thing, and then we have the same 4-bar rhythmic repeat at measures 5 and 6, something the same rhythm at different note, like interval jumping in measure 7. Measure 8 is rhythmically completely different, and then we kind of jump into a different chunk. So it's like an A section and then a B section kind of thing. So again, my apologies, I'm rambling. But let's go ahead and do measures 9 through 16 with a pickup in measure 8. So that'll be 1 and 2, then you start playing. Pick up in measure 8. 1 and 2. Okay. The only thing to keep in mind here is in measure 15, we have an interesting kind of string crossing deal. So we have a. When you are dancing around an open string, like we do in that section, because it's in that measure, it is a 1 open 4 open 1 is the figure there. You're going to want to be real careful and make sure that your fingers aren't touching the open A when it's playing. That's how you get what's called false harmonics. They sound horrible when you are not trying to do them intentionally. When you are trying to do them intentionally, I haven't had the best of luck with them, but when they come off, they can do amazing things. There's a different note head to notate that you're supposed to be running false harmonics. It's actually a little diamond instead of a dot for the actual head on the note, but it's still got the stem like normal. So, anyway, we are getting way off into the weeds here. But let's go ahead and just do measure 15 by itself really quick, and then we'll add everything else back in. So, measure 15. 1 and 2 and we'll finish out the note so that it isn't just hanging in space there. But keep in mind when you are doing that, you don't necessarily have to take your hands all the way off. Like you don't need a ton of space there, but just make sure that you're rolled far enough. That was not enough. So yeah, that's something to keep an eye out for. It's when I started playing, I had a tendency to play real flat. My wrist would, or my arm would be at about this angle, and my fingers would be playing on top of the fingerboard like this. It's good for bar chords if you're doing power metal and that kind of stuff, or if you're doing a lot of double stops, triple stops, whatever. Um, your hands do cramp real quick though when you're not used to it. Normally, you're going to want a more rounded position, almost like you're holding onto a water bottle or you're going to grab a doorknob, something along those lines. So you want your fingers rounded over the top so you can still. You can still get over onto the next string, but have the string above still available to play without making terrible noises like you are sacrificing something. So let's go ahead and do measure 15 one more time, and then we'll do that pick up to 8 all the way through 16. So measure 15, go ahead and join me. 1 and 2 and. Okay. And then let's do the pickup at 8 and then go all the way through 16, and then we can figure it out from there. So 1 and 2. Okay. Measure 17 on isn't terribly far afield. Keep in mind we do have a repeat at measure 23, which is kind of an interesting deal because normally what we've been playing so far is usually four bar phrases or 8 bar phrases, and then everything's usually a multiple of 4, a multiple of 8, possibly 6. This gets a little weird because there's a repeat at measure 23, like that nothing mathematically breaks down like that normally in kind of a deal. So we have an extra measure somewhere that kind of lends itself to, oh hey, we're doing something different here. Um, one of the reasons I enjoy classical is you've got a standard kind of framework. You've got A, B, A. So you have something different, and then you go back to the original something. You have theme and variation where you have something, and then you have something but slightly different, but still definitely something. Um, and then you have something that's different in a different way. So it's like A1, A2, A3 kind of a thing. So you've got all these different forms that are not necessarily mathematical, but like they're they're a standard kind of a template, and it's really interesting watching what you can do in the compositional or from the compositional side. It's really interesting to see what you can do to set up expectations. It's oh, it's an A B A C kind of a setup, but then change it just enough to develop interest, and that's one of the things that I've really noticed with um, Beethoven's really popular with it. Bach is very popular with it, or is known for it, I guess, of being able to set up these expectations and then subvert them just enough to where they're still recognizable, but it sparks interest, it grabs your attention, and it's really fun. Anyway, so let's go ahead and try 17 to the repeat. So yeah, 17 to the repeat. My apologies. 1 and 2 and. we have here? In measure 19, we have that same kind of a deal where you have to make sure that your hands are out of the way so you're not getting terrible notes on your open string. And then measures 21 and 22, we have this repeated figure that is specifically designed to build tension and grab people's attention, because we don't normally have a repeated note in a solo performance without cause. There's a reason. There's something's coming up. It kind of gives you a heads up. Oh, hey, we're building towards something. Usually, this is also played with a gradual crescendo over the entire thing, leading into the next section. However, in this case, we don't have much in the way of dynamics markings, so it's either implied or you can leave it out. Usually, either you're going to want to be getting louder and building towards something, or you're going to be wanting to get softer and drawing away from something. Because if you're just it kind of sounds like you're stuck on a record and you're hitting that skip and it's just repeating over and over. But is building towards something, is definitely moving away from something. In this case, obviously, I'm way over exaggerating and way over emphasizing, but it kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with it in a musical sense from the performance aspect, to not just only spice up your playing, but to bring a lot more life into very simple pieces, and be able to move something forward and turn it into a performance instead of just a I know this song kind of a thing. So let's go ahead and do 17 to the repeat, and then we will go from there. Okay. 1 and 2 and. Okay, let's do that one more time. Just work on a slight crescendo and kind of a driving feel from 21 into 20 or into the repeat. We'll do that one more time, and then we'll take the repeat, break that down into a couple chunks, and then go from there. So 17 to the repeat. 1 and 2 and. Okay. Repeat is going to be measure 23 through till 33. So let's do the first 4 measures of the repeat. So that'll be measure 23 to measure 26. 1 and 2 and. So again, we have the same. We don't have the repeated note. We have a repeated figure. That'd be the. And looking forward, we do have that again in measures 29 and 30. So that probably means we need to do something with that. We have a simple intro, which is the same rhythmic pattern that we've seen before, but not the same pattern of pitches. So we're probably going to be building to the next section with the. And then we have, just kind of moving on a little bit, we have a. Leading to something different. So we'll do the first 4 measures of the repeat. And then we will move on. Well, actually, why don't we just go ahead and do from the first repeat to the first ending? We'll play it through at once. We'll kind of break it down a little bit more, because we do have an interesting figure right before the repeat in those last 2 measures. And then we can kind of stick everything together and kind of see how it goes. So just go ahead and play through with me, measure 23 to measure 32. We'll go from there. So 1 and 2 and. So we have our second dynamic marking of the entire piece, which is fortissimo, and then immediately backs off into forte, and then we go into the first ending. So, we have a thing, we have something, or we have another thing, we have the thing again, we have the something, or we have another thing again, and we have something different. And then we go into a repeat. So we wind up playing all of that again. So let's go ahead and do that one more time. Measure 23 through measure 20, or through measure 32. My apologies. And then we'll play the first ending, then we'll play the second ending, and then we'll kind of put everything together. So, first repeat. 1 and 2 and. Okay, let's go ahead and play measure 33 and 34. Well, actually, let's play the first ending because the measures don't count the same when they're in the endings. It's a weird setup. So, first ending. Let's just go ahead and play it straight. 1 and 2 and. One more time. Go ahead and play it with me. First ending. 1 and 2 and. And then the second ending. Go ahead and play it with me. 1 and 2 and. Keep in mind you do have that hooked bow at the last two notes right before the end. There's no measure numbers and you can't use. So we do have those two hook notes, so you end on a down bow. And again, this is another instance where we have the same note repeated. So we need to do something with that so it isn't just. Because that has no drive, that has no sound, that has no soul to it. You kind of have to do something with it. Granted, it is the last measure of the piece, the last measure of the last repeat of the piece, so it's a lot easier to do something with it kind of intrinsically. But it's something to keep an eye out for. So, let's work on putting all of this together. Let's do first pick up all the way to the repeat. Just so we have kind of an idea of what the first section of the song is going to sound like. Because the setup for this is basically A, something, and then we have the repeated section, B, which is something else, and then we play it slightly differently because the ending changes, so it would be B prime, or B1, so it'll be A, B, B1, is kind of the overall like graph or scheme of this particular song. I know there's a technical term for it, and I'm a terrible person because I cannot remember it off the top of my head. So, let's go ahead and play the beginning of the song to the repeat sign. Something else to keep in mind, especially when doing this kind of stuff in the bar, or the repeat signs aren't on the very first thing on the bar. I have a tendency to take a pencil. Pencil, always have one. Erasers are optional, pencils are required. If you know what you're doing, you can do it in pen. Highly do not recommend. I've done it before. I've had to get new music or print new music off because, oh yeah, I'll mark that. Oh, that was the wrong line. That was the wrong bar. That was the wrong note or accent. Just use pencil. You can always erase it later. But I wind up taking a pencil and I actually wind up putting big old slashes on top and on bottom, showing the direction the repeat goes. I'll take a picture of it later so that we can splice it in so that you can see exactly how I notate my stuff. But I do it on both ends so that I can see where things need to go. The big problem is I tend to mark very large on my page so it gets my attention. Occasionally it also covers up things like fingerings and accents and stuff. So, neither here nor there. Something to keep an eye out for so that you don't do it, or if you do it, you know what to look out for and try to avoid. Learn from my mistakes. Anyway, let's go ahead and do the beginning to the first repeat. So, keep in mind we do have that pickup, so it'll be 1 and 2, da da. So 1 and 2. So I missed 2 of those bowings. Again, it was getting back into that old habit of hooking, the hooking same notes into the same bow. Definitely a bad habit to have. So let's go and do that one more time, but we will go through and play through the first repeat and then stop. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and play the first section again, and then we'll do the repeat as a separate section. So to get up to the repeat, because we do also need to move this forward in terms of BPM and pacing. So beginning to the repeat sign, we'll keep it at that slower tempo. So 1 and 2. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the first ending, or the repeat section. We'll do the first ending, back to the repeat, play through, and then play the second ending, which will be the end of the song. So keeping that same tempo. 1 and 2 and. Okay. So with that, we have the repeated sections, which we need to drive through and then play through. Not necessarily speed up, because if you increase the BPM kind of a deal as you're playing, that would be an accelerando, which is not what is being called for here. So we need to be playing through, driving through those without increasing our tempo, so that we move the song forward, not just kind of like stall out. And then we do have that first ending, back to the repeat sign, play through, and then to the second ending. So make sure you skip that chunk. Again, pencils, road markers. I'll show you what I do personally on all of this, so that you can kind of see what's going on. But this is how I handle it. So let's go ahead and play that second ending, and then we can tie everything together and increase the speed so that we can get it back up to the yeah. That would be about where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and do the endings, plural, again. From the repeat sign through the first ending, repeat sign, second ending, and end of the song. So 1 and 2 and. go ahead and tie it together. Um, so this is going to be a fair bit faster. When we hit actual tempo, we are looking for. It's going to be moving very quickly. It's a nice dancing kind of lilting thing to it. Definitely with some speed, but we're also not trying to just like burn the entire thing down and get it done right now, kind of a thing. So don't if you have a hard time getting up to this tempo, um, definitely gradually increase because you don't want to be playing at the absolute bleeding edge of your abilities on this instrument. You want to be able to create beautiful music with the instrument that you are practicing as you move forward and work on one element at a time. With this entire deal, I try really hard to break it down into small chunks that are easily picked up. But if you have a hard time, you can go back and look at it again in combination with building logically. I mean, like we did at the beginning of this, we broke it down into okay, so here's the intro, here's a pickup note. This gets kind of weird. Here's a 2-bar phrase. This has some funky stuff in it. Let's work on it. Now we're going to add in the beginning and we're going to play till we hit something else that's different that needs a little more work. Then we're going to tie that chunk in, pardon me, move into the next chunk of the song, like that A, B, B prime kind of a setup like we were talking about, and then go and put everything together and then work on speed. And everything has to build logically. You can't just jump from, I've never looked at this piece to, we're working on note duration, we're working on sustaining the music, we're working on dynamics, we're working on fingerings, and we're working on articulations all at the same time. Will not happen. Trust me, I've tried. Procrastinators unite tomorrow. So don't try to pile on too much stuff that you're working on with one individual piece all at the same time, because it makes burnout a lot easier to hit and it makes moving forward a whole lot harder. So with that in mind, let's play it fast. Let's go ahead and start. So this is about where we had been. And then we're looking for. Let's play a little bit. Yeah, let's go ahead and try it at that pace. So 1, 2, 1, 2. That's going to be about where we're at. Okay. Pick up at the beginning and we will play through the entire thing, all the way through, all the repeats, and see how we do. 1, 2, 1, 2. So you see, with a little bit faster pace, you see how much easier it is to put into the music, kind of the overarching curves and the overall feel to it. That's one of the things that it took me a long time to kind of notice. Is like I just wanted to play it faster because playing faster was more fun. But then I started noticing that shaping phrases and doing things, especially like on the repeated notes, so the repeated figures, like we had talked about earlier, um, it made it easier to see how those phrases fit together when I was playing the entire piece, because I wasn't focusing on a tiny part of it. I was seeing the overall structure and how everything fit in. And so that was one of the things that playing a little bit faster definitely helped me kind of get a grasp on, which then I could use to broaden my horizons, even when the music was slower, and still be able to build interest and build a drive towards a particular resolution point or a cadence or whatever the case may be. So for the last time, let's go ahead and go through this a little bit faster. Yep, so that's going to be about where we're at. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that one and then play all the way through. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Well, hopefully that gave you a lot to think about. Hopefully that also will take a little bit of time to work up to speed so that you can kind of focus on individual things and kind of start processing through how, not only how to play this particular song, but also how to approach music and kind of how to put everything together in the future sense. So thank you very much, and until next time.